we'll have those for you right after this. The shoes of last year's leading man, Johnny Jones, are being filled by a pair of co-stars, Tony Robinson and Tim McGee. Jones was the leading rusher in the SEC last year, but the young men hoping to make up for his loss are quite a pair themselves. Head coach Johnny Majors has called Tony Robinson the best quarterback he's ever coached and says of Tim McGee, he's the best wide receiver. So check your SEC schedules, and when the Volunteers come to town, get ready for an air raid. Throwing the ball won't be a problem for Tennessee this year, but defensively, a lot of youngsters will have to grow up quickly if the Vols are to stay in contention. Coach Johnny Majors recognizes that, but he's still confident they can do the job.
I think the defense is one of the two primary concerns that I have, and unfortunately, the two biggest concerns I have, I think, are the two areas that give you more stability in winning football games and having an outstanding team. Our defensive team will not have as much ability as we've had the last 2 years. But hopefully with Ken Donahue come in as defensive line coach, I think his philosophy of coaching is a lot more like mine. I think we have a very good defensive staff. I look for us to have possibly a little bit more forcefulness, hopefully a little more attacking in our philosophy, and hopefully we'll be a tougher natured defensive team with better hardcore discipline than what we've had in the past. We were sound defensively, but we weren't forceful enough. We didn't make enough things happen. We didn't establish defensive field position enough for our offensive people, and I hope that that changes, even though our personnel will not be quite as good as what we've had the last 2 years.
Opponents who think they can win a scoring battle against the Vols had better think again. Not only is the passing and receiving talent among the best in the nation, they always seem to be on the same wavelength.
We've been together so long, ever since our freshman years. We worked junior varsity on the way up to varsity, and you know, we had the confidence in each other, and he knows what I'm going to do, and I know what he's going to do, and being on the same page helps an awful lot.
Yes, it does. You know, when you know what your receiver's going to do and you expect him to do that, he does it. So, you know, if the receiver does something else, it throws my timing off, and, you know, we both kind of get mad at each other when we're not on the same page. But, you know, most of the time we're on the right page and we get things done. That bomb that I threw to Tim against Vanderbilt, I thought was too short, and it was right there, you know. Oh, man. You know, I sprinted down the field after that one. I never sprint that far in my life, so, you know.
Seeing him sprint down the field, I'm like, Tony, what you coming down here for? And he comes down and gives me a hug, and it was just a great feeling.
And if attitude and spirit count for anything, the Volunteers may have the market cornered in Tim McGee.
Well, my dream play, I think it'd have to be a screen pass where I'm getting all the attention, meaning I'm doing all the running, break a couple of tackles, and just all kinds of things happening, and end up in the end zone for the game-winning touchdown with 1 second left on the game. We win Sugar Bowl. You know, little kid dream.
Well, Tim, I think the forward pass will thrive in the state of Tennessee this year.
I don't think there's any question about it. Not only for the Volunteers. You drive on down the road a little bit to Nashville, you find the Vanderbilt Commodores, who under the direction of George McIntyre had developed one of the most prolific passing offenses.
Hi, Hi.
Hi there, and welcome to the Columbia.
Thank you. And hello, everybody, and welcome to Coming Attractions, our preview of the 1985 Southeastern Conference football season. I'm Bob Neal, along with Tim Foley. And, Tim, you know, the excitement around the SEC this year is so great in anticipation of the 1985 season. It's like a Hollywood premiere.
It almost is, and if you look at it that way, each one of the teams has been in production since early spring for their annual fall release. And during the next hour, with a little help from our friends here at Columbia Theater, you're going to be treated to a veritable SEC football film festival.
Well, let's get right to it.
I'm with you.
Our first subject for critical review is being produced in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, probably the least likely place to find a tidal wave.
What's even more unlikely is that Alabama will suffer through another losing season this year. They're strong. But in 1984, the tide ebbed at 5-6.
You know, that 5-6 record was a little bit misleading. This Alabama team was a pretty good football team, a fact that was proven in the season finale with that win over Liberty Bowl-bound Auburn. In fact, the Tide closed with 4 wins in their final 6 games. But a 5-6 record just doesn't meet Tuscaloosa standards. And once again, the key word for Ray Perkins will be pressure.
Alabama, you got the weight on your shoulders. Let's bring your back.
One of the biggest problems a year ago was at the quarterback position. But this year, Coach Perkins seems set to go with Mike Shula, keeping talented Vince Sutton a capable understudy.
This year it is Mike Shula. He had a great spring. I thought he improved steadily as the spring went along, and he certainly wound up the spring head and shoulders above the other young men.
Quarterbacking the defense will be linebacker Cornelius Bennett, a young man Perkins can't say enough about.
His third day of practice, I made a pretty bold statement about Cornelius as far as him maybe becoming the best linebacker that's ever been at Alabama. And, you know, a lot of the press didn't understand why I would say that. But I think he's proved, at least, not my statement, but I think he has proved that he is a great football player.
And up front defensively, huge John Hand, the Tide's enforcer on and off the field.
A couple years ago, I transferred over to the criminal justice field, and I became fascinated with all aspects of it, of law enforcement and all. And I came up with the idea of maybe looking into the FBI Secret Service.
Probably no one is more vital to the Tide's chances than running back Kerry Good. He went out with a knee injury in the first game of '84, but not before amassing 297 yards of total offense. A healthy Good just might make Alabama take off.
Alabama, get away, get away. Alabama, get away, get away. Only way to please me, just down the deep and walk away.
The excitement Good brings is contagious. Just ask the men who block for him.
The best feeling I ever get is when I hit a guy and knock him on his back, look up, see the crowd rise, and see Kerry Good going right down the middle for a touchdown.
Well, you have plenty of reasons to be optimistic if you're an Alabama fan, for this year's tidal wave has the potential to be a real hit.
Well, I think as we go along, Tim, we'll find that all the teams have reason to be optimistic, and a good case in point would be the Auburn Tigers.
War Eagles Dare. That's the name of the 1985 Auburn production, and while true Auburn fans know their real nickname is Tigers, in fact, the golden eagle that graces the sidelines at Auburn football games is named Tiger. War Eagle is a battle cry that has long been used to epitomize the tremendous spirit the Auburn athlete tries to portray.
And probably nobody symbolizes that War Eagle spirit better than Auburn's star running back, Bo Jackson. Auburn coach Pat Dye has devised a new plot for the offense to follow this season, the I formation. And Tim found out Bo Jackson finds the change to his liking.
Have you ever run from the I formation before?
Only in high school.
Do you like that? Do you like the look, the deeper look?
Yes, I do, because it gives you the opportunity to pick your holes quicker than you would if you were running from the wishbone, and it's more north and south running than what they call east and west running out of the wishbone.
How do the running backs do it? Game after game.
Crazy.
You got to be a little bit, right?
Running backs are sick individuals.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you always sick, or is that something that grew on you?
Well, I've always been that way. Well, I guess I was born with that problem.
Another change in the offense is at quarterback, where last year's starter, Pat Washington, has found himself no better than third string going into the fall.
It's different than Pat Washington was a starter last year and as a senior, and Jeff Berger is a talented sophomore that was redshirted a year, so he's actually going into his third year and probably came out of spring practice a little ahead of all the rest. And of course, you got Bobby Walden, that is a big, strong, talented redshirt freshman that had a great spring. I really don't know how it'll end up. The thing that I hope that we can do and that we plan to do is we plan to let them settle the issue on the game field.
On the other side of the ball, Auburn finds itself strong on ability, but weak in experience. It's a situation Dye recognizes, but doesn't fear.
We've got an unsettled situation on defense. We probably could put on paper the strongest and fastest football team that we've ever had. But, you know, they've got to make these position changes, and sometimes that's not easy.
Another plus for Auburn in 1985 is the relaxed atmosphere the coaching staff has created. The goals this year are playing to talent's capabilities. And if that happens, football championships and Heisman trophies will take care of themselves.
This year, the Heisman Trophy is in the back of my mind. I'm just going to go out and just play football. Go out and play reckless football this fall.
We'll take a short break now, so make some popcorn or grab a soft drink, and we'll be right back. Preseason look at 1985 Southeastern Conference football. Down in Gainesville, Florida, final casting is taking place for Swamp Things. And a lot of talent returns to the University of Florida team this year, a fact that has hopes running high for critical, if not commercial, success. NCAA probation will keep the Gators off television and prohibit any postseason honors. But much like last year, this year's team will be explosive. And by season's end, these Swamp Things just may have the rest of the SEC singing their tune. Coach Galen Hall finished 8-0 in his first head coaching stint last year, but he faces a couple of stiff challenges this season. The first, rebuilding 4/5 of the offensive line that was thought by many to be 1984's best. And the second, keep probation from getting the Gators down. The latter is a problem Hall has licked, according to Florida running back Neil Anderson.
Every team we play next year will be like a rivalry game, and we have said around camp that we have 11 bowl games that we'll play this year. And Coach Hall is a great person for us to have right now, because when he was at Oklahoma, they were on probation, couldn't win the conference, but won the national championship. So that's something, that's our goal right now.
Joining Anderson in the backfield will be fullback John L. Williams, whose 793 yards rushing last year was only third on the team, but sixth in the conference. And manning the helmet quarterback, sophomore Kerwin Bell, the SEC Player of the Year as a freshman. And a young man Hall thinks is even better this year.
This spring, I think Kerwin and I practiced very well. We had 20 practices. Probably 18 of them were positive practice for Kerwin. I think he had 2 bad days. So I think we'll put more of a burden on him of letting him audible more, letting him change plays in line of scrimmage, because he is a very intelligent quarterback. And I look for Kerwin to keep us out of the bad place this fall.
Will the success continue for Coach Hall and his young quarterback? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. On defense, the Gators return a sturdy crew, led by All-American linebacker Alonzo Johnson. He has a knack for making the big play, as does receiver and punt returner Ricky Natile. His 15-plus yards per return were tops in the nation last year. With all these weapons back in the arsenal for 1985, the Gators have a chance to be among the best in the nation.
Not long ago, I had the pleasure of chatting with some of the leading men from the University of Georgia. One thing I discovered was that no one has forgotten the bitter end to last year's campaign. But in Bulldog country, that sour taste has seemed to inspire the hard work necessary for sweet success. And back to help out are some old familiars.
Dog day afternoon, love and the life we're living, playing that Georgia rhythm. Nothing else ever made me feel so fine.
The off-season was a source of concern to dog lovers. Pulpwood Smith, last year's leading rusher, was dismissed for academic reasons, and Coach Vince Dooley, Georgia's head man for the last 21 years, hinted he might step down to run for the United States Senate.
I'm very happy about my decision. I'm excited about the season number 22. Just as I was excited about season number 1, I still have the same reservations about season 22 as I had about season 1.
And don't worry, the dog players haven't lost 1 ounce of respect for their coach. Take offensive lineman Pete Anderson, for example.
The one word I'd use to describe Coach Dooley is class. He runs a class organization, and he involves class people in that organization. Coach Dooley isn't outspoken. He lets every individual know exactly where they stand. But on top of that, Coach Dooley lets them know that you cannot be held back by your physical limitations if mentally you work hard, very hard, and that's what Georgia's been built on. Not the great natural athletes that we're not sending pros to the NFL all the time, but we're coming up with great teams, and that's because we play as a team, and each player, I think Coach Dooley just draws more out of each individual than any other man I've seen.
Anderson will be back to lead an offense full of question marks, the first of which was who will be the starting quarterback. But Todd Williams has suffered a knee injury that will apparently hand the job to Citrus Bowl MVP James Jackson. On defense, the picture is as clear as ever. Georgia will be solid as always and will employ that good old junkyard dog attitude.
Well, his main purpose is to try to get the players to hustle, get to the ball, and put a hat on the ball. Hard hitting and just outright hustle. You know, he really cherishes a player that gives his all and goes out and hustles and tries to get to the ball and make something happen.
Although other Georgia teams have appeared stronger on paper, there's no question that Vince Dooley will produce another winner. And it's easy to see why he decided to stay on as the top dog.
Gorgeous.
action. Next up, a review of the Fighting Kentuckians, a title that fits this team to a T.
And we'll start it off with a scene from their finest performance in 1984, the Hall of Fame Bowl.
Overmatched in both size and speed by Big Ten representative Wisconsin, the Wildcats didn't wilt. They hung close, knowing they would get an opportunity to win, and they made the best of it, 20-19.
The year of the cat.
The victory gave Coach Jerry Claiborne a mark of 9-3 with the Cats, his best to date. And it gave Kentucky football fans a season to remember.
I think the interest in football is an all-time high right now throughout the state of Kentucky. And all this is good. I think that the players, for a few times in Kentucky's history, they're talking about football during the winter. They've been talking about football during the summer. And I just think that this excitement, I hope certainly rub off. I can't wait to get started.
But gone this year is George Adams, and a lot of the offensive load will rest on his successor.
Well, the first thing I emphasize is it's going to be tough to replace George Adams because he's our leading rusher for 3 years and leading pass receiver for 2 years. But again, Mark Logan, we feel like that he has not reached his full potential at all, and we're hoping he can stay well. You know, he's been hurt off and on during his career. But Mark is faster than George and probably stronger than George, but just hadn't had the durability. And maybe not quite the pass receiver that George is, but he's worked hard, and we think he's going to be an excellent back. In fact, I dropped him a little note the other day and told him to prepare himself to where he can run the ball 20 or 30 times a game, because that's what he's going to have to do.
At quarterback, Bill Ransdell returns for his junior season. As the '84 season progressed, Ransdell became more comfortable with reading defensive coverages and finding second and third receivers.
I think you can get your big play with the throwing game, and I think